Greatness. 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 Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
Yes, welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Joined with me is my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing, baby. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion, baby. There she be. Let's go.
And there's the ring kiss.
Look at that.
Hey, on this podcast, we teach you how to renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. And don't forget, there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. Hey, we got 12 people watching right now, and not one of y'all is in the comments. So if you could let us know who's here, just say, here, I'm present, I'm in the comments, give a little emoji, something like that. Let us know you're here and you're watching. We got a kind of a deep one tonight. Hopefully we can kind of give you guys some practical steps. And it's obviously from the banner, you can see it's Suicide Prevention Month, the month of September. And so we're going to dive into that, kind of discuss some of those things, give some practical steps on how to, if you struggle with suicidal thoughts as an individual, if you got some loved ones or friends or family around you that struggle with suicidal thoughts, kind of some practical steps on how to do that, because we know this is a serious topic that we want to take seriously. And what a better way to talk about it than during the National Suicide Month, Prevention Month. So
yeah, one of the top things we want to talk about is that brain health is the #1 suicide prevention. So we're going to be just reiterating that throughout the day here. Brain health is the key, and we'll show you some evidence of why brain health matters. It is the most important thing when we talk about suicidal thoughts, suicide prevention, suicide attempt survivors. Brain health, brain health, brain health.
Jay Ruby from Wisconsin.
Jay Rube.
Let's go. Yvonne, I'm present. She's here. Roll call.
Yes, let's go.
Alicia, I'm here for now, watching from bed and half open eyes.
I'm gonna fall asleep. I should fall asleep. I can't fall asleep.
She's not making it this time. She came down. She was looking real droopy. All right, we got a Dr. Sanchez. A no way. I love you guys.
Christine, let's go.
Hey, you're lagging over there.
Am I? No way.
Yeah. Are you? Is your Wi-Fi on your own phone?
No.
Okay. All right. You should be good.
Yep.
Use every once in a while. We got a little buzz.
Okay.
All right. TJ, I'm right beside Yvonne. She won't share her screen with me though.
Turn up the volume. We can hear us.
You got a little tiny screen. You do this whole thing for a while. It's only a matter of time before your neck.
That's right.
Oh, we got a couple of them. Here we go. What's up? It's amazing.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just jump right into this and let's talk about it. So I just want to say I've never came from a place. I'm talking from a place of not personally struggling with suicidal thoughts. And so I'm going to kind of turn it over to, and my stuff is theory. My stuff is more from the side of, I've had friends that struggle with it. I've had youth students that struggle with it. And so that side of it, not necessarily personally me struggling with suicidal thoughts. Yes, I've had bad days. Yes, I've thought it might be better to maybe to take away the pain in some way. But as far as suicidal thoughts goes, not necessarily something I've struggled with personally. So I'm not going to say, hey, just do this and it all goes away, or hey, this is the key to making it all better. And I think you'll come from the same place as well. But we saw an increase in numbers of loneliness, anxiety, depression, PTSD, substance abuse, a broad range of mental health behaviors, disorders, domestic violence, child abuse. Everything on that spectrum during the pandemic increased, an incredible amount. Yeah. And statistics say it really hasn't gone down since then.
No. And the crazy thing, and all those kind of ebb and flow. So like substance abuse was up like 69%, domestic violence was up like 60%. So all those were ebbed and flowed. But the one number we want to pull is there was 1/4 1/4, so 25% of individuals between the ages of 24 down to 18 literally pondered suicide, and they thought of like a way or a plan or just a mental attempt. They didn't make the attempt, but they pondered a serious attempt, and that's terrible.
Yeah, seriously considered taking their life.
Seriously considered it, yes. So that usually means they got stuck on the how. They've thought about it, but they don't have a gun in the house or something like that. They pondered it, and that's spooky, because once they get into that thing, they fall into what's called the internal narrative. And the number one reason why people don't seek help at that moment is because this internal narrative is like a false reality. And because so many things have gone wrong up until that point, let's just say 11 negative things, and they boxcar them together. Like none of those are technically related, but they boxcar them. So we always talk about like, man, when it rains, it pours, like stuff like that. People always come in and be like, hey, do you believe that like crap happens in threes? And they just start to get this internal narrative where they're looking for the next negative, and they just pile up. And then, so here's the issue. They've reached out to a handful of people, let's say 3, and all 3 said stuff like, oh, bro, just get over it. Like, oh, we've all had the blues. And so the answer is they brush over it. That's the concept. Like, yeah, they just brushed me off or brushed over it. And so now they're left to their own devices, which is called their internal narrative. Now this internal narrative becomes an internal narrative, or a narrative identity. So now this is who I am. I have dyslexia. I am a failure. I am a loser because I got kicked off the team. I am a scrub. And that's that in that narrative now that now was a story. Now it's a narrative of who I am. And that's where they're broken. And this is why this hashtag, like, be the one to, you don't have to know what to say, but so many people, when I see them clinically, they'll say, you know, hey, I showed up to this birthday party. Not one dude said hi to me. Or I went to this club, or I showed up at church, or I went to this small group. Not one dude said hi to me separately from like, hey, everybody's here, Joe's here, like that kind of a thing. They didn't address me specifically. So they come in hoping that one person would just reach out. Nobody does. So now they're back stuck into their narrative.
Yep.
Where I am blank. Okay. And that's where poop hits the fan. Okay. So what we want to talk about, really, we're going to be coming back to this narrative, this internal story, this internal dialogue that becomes my identity. But before we move there, we'll pick that back up. I want to bounce around a little bit and talk a little bit about like the suicide factors. So we can get into things like, oh, they're not a climber, or, oh, they're not working hard, or, oh, they, try things and fail. Those are the outcomes. And we unfortunately highlight the outcomes for people, and then they crash emotionally. So let's just focus on this for a second. Suicide prevention, remember, is brain health. And if we flip it, health.
Before you go into that,
number one thing about brain health is it's prevent suicide. What's that?
Before you go into that, as we're talking, at any point, remember, if you're watching this, we don't want this to just be me and Dad talking back and forth. So hop into the comments. If you don't want it to be you personally, throw out a hypothetical. If you got a friend or family, a situation, you want to leave names out, do that. But we want this to be a conversation where we're also at the same time talking about some of these things, but answering some of maybe some personal specific situations that you're going through. Like I said, if you want to protect names and family members, then do that. But we definitely want to make this a more than just a two-way dialogue. We want you guys to be in the comments as well. So
yes, correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is about brain health. So the Amen Clinics, his name's Dr. Daniel Amen. You can Google him. He's got a great system. He's a psychiatrist, board certified psychiatrist, who they do 3D brain scans, functional brain spec scans, fMRIs, and they get a 3D representation of the brain, and they take a look at blood flow as a number one issue. And they're really, really good at diagnosing emotional and mental health problems, and then highlighting the brain damage or the brain malfunction that's in the way, put them on supplements, diets, nutritions. And then when that's not working, then they move into therapy and medication. So they kind of go at it from the functional medicine first, which is why I connected with them. And then they move into medicine and therapy. So they have brain scans of 300 people who have survived a suicide attempt from all ages. So 300 attempts, and they're called unsuccessful attempts. Like, that's the one time I want to be unsuccessful, right? So these are 300 unsuccessful attempts. And what they found out is 40% of them had undiagnosed brain trauma. So that's called the TBI, so a traumatic brain injury. And when you ask the question, like, why does that matter? Traumatic brain injuries cause impulsivity. So you're more likely to do stuff that you normally wouldn't have. you have these negative patterns where you get stuck. That's the internal narrative, because the brain damage corrects this issue called the cingulate gyrus, which that helps you to get unstuck. They have flashes of anger, irritability, and they're chronically viewed as agitated. And so when I see somebody who comes in the office and they're normally like on that track, they've thought about it, but maybe they're cutting themselves. They thought about suicide, but they don't really have the how-to, so they're just pondering. They can't stop shaking their leg. They can't stop shaking. They can't stop twitching. They literally look like a meth head that's tweaking because they're so agitated. They can't handle any more stress. They're just like waiting for somebody to break in and help them, but they don't know how to ask for help. They won't accept the help because they're locked themselves in the circle and they can't get out. And then they have these incredible mood swings. And because of those incredible mood swings, people start to throw darts at them like, hey, you're a freaking loser, dude. Like, what, get off your hole. Like, and so that just, pushes them down on the hole a little bit more. And the other thing about this is like, they come so subtly. So like Tyler will even laugh about this, but I made my kids wear a helmet until they were 13. And anytime they try to do like skateboard tricks or bike tricks or parkour, I made them wear a helmet. And everybody thinks I'm stupid or whatever. You can call me whatever, but my kids are the ones who, like Valencia's 11 and she still rides, everything with a helmet. And the reason is that those TBIs happen so subtly that people didn't check into the clinic. So you fall off a bike, you slip off a ladder, you slide headfirst into, a softball game, and the catcher has a knee pad, so it smokes you in the head, and then you're vomiting late at night and have all this diarrhea and you're dizzy. These things happen so subtly, but think about this. Out of the 300 suicide attempts, 40% of them had brain damage, traumatic brain injury. Okay, so if we take a look at like, okay, why or where does it happen? So, okay, let's take a look at the temporal lobe. So left temporal lobe right behind your ear. So we got Wernicke's area, Broca's area. Why that's important is because one is the way I express language. I express my emotion. I express my creativity. And the other is the way I can receive language. So listen to this. 62% of those individuals had damage to the left parietal lobe and left temporal lobes. And so they can't understand language as well as we can. They get stuck on the syntax and they think, bro, you were mad at me. Bro, you didn't pay attention to me, or you brushed me off, or whatever it is, because they're subtly off. They're not walking around like, with a one-on-one aid from school, but they just kind of don't quite get the language. And the other piece is then they forget conversations and they can't remember information. So they're always like, hey, I checked you out on Friday. What happened? You didn't get me back. You said you were going to call me back. Like, no, you didn't say that. And you get into that conversation. So that's difficult. The biggest one that's connected, and they're kind of comboed usually, is a limbic system, where that's depression. Depression holds up there. That makes people have a chronic narrative that's negative. So when they look at stuff, they're the people who see everything at the glass is half empty. Instead of saying like, hey, I got an award, they're like, well, I got third place. And you'll see these memes like the person who's second place and who's pouting and mad, Olympic silver, and they're all pissed off, versus the person who got bronze and they're like, they literally think they won the lottery. So that's the narrative of how your temporal lobes handle that, or your limbic system handles that. The other one that's really important to me, and I find a lot of people, this is the prefrontal cortex issue. So the PFC, that's left forehead, and that's where your CEO of the brain handles is in there. And so that's where we critically think, we problem solve, we task analysis, like we break down big problems into small problems. And then we also have this issue where we can't actually focus on an issue. So I always have that tip of tongue thing where like I'm talking and I'm like, oh, dude, I was going to tell you something. Like, oh man, I was going to do something. You run into the kitchen. And so that area of the brain is where ADD sets up. And so people talk about the difference really between brain fog. And actually there's some research to show that your brain short-term memory falls down after if you've had a battle with COVID. And so that's the left PFC. And so if I can't make decisions, if I can't problem solve, if I can't break down huge problems into small tasks, if I can't organize and stay focused, I'm going to be falling apart a lot. Okay. So the people who are, kind of really struggling are the people who have low blood flow to their left parietal lobe. So I've got ADD-like symptoms. And then I've got too much flow into the cingulate gyrus, where I rehearse thoughts over and over and over, or I have OCD-like symptoms where I'm rehashing things over and over and over, and I get stuck on the wrong thing. So I can't focus on problems and tasks, future orientation, but I get stuck on the things that go wrong. And that sets people up for the internal narrative that says, I'm an idiot. Nobody can help me. I'm freaking done. Like, I'd be better off dead. And then people get into this big thing where they think, I'm going to do the world a service by just vanishing. The world would be a better place. And that's where they get into that really, really stuck place.
So that 40% brain trauma,
yes.
is that like my brother punched my head? Is that like concussion? Like, what is that? Do you know what defines that? Like, I'm like, dude, I've been hit in the head quite a few times.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is really, really sad.
Standard.
So here's the issue. So like, think about your brain. Okay. So your brain, the outside shell, right? A skull is a bone. Then there's a sac of fluid that protects the brain. Inside that sac of fluid is our brain, which is the consistency of soft room temperature butter. So now imagine a stick of butter inside a hard shell, and then I toss it to you. Right? The only thing protecting you from your butter getting smashed on your skull is this sac of fluid. And it's airtight. This sac of fluid is super tight. So the brain's inside this thing. So like this gel inside the brain is like this. Okay. And then if it smashes, the brain pushes through the fluid and then dips and hits the head. And then that's where people have concussions. They're 3 times more likely to have another concussion. And that's why you'll see pro athletes, hockey players, football players, boxers. Once they get concussed, they barely get hit and they're concussed again.
Yep.
Okay. And so, so here's the crazy thing. We all know like boxers have concussions and football players and hockey players, right? We don't understand that literally if you slip down the stairs or fall on the ice, but taking the garbage out, you could have a concussion. Everybody thinks you have to black out to have a concussion and you don't.
Or throw up.
Or you have to throw up and you don't, right? And so those are there. So here's the issue. You could get hit really hard once, or you can have multiple subtle ones. And so if you think about any, like a volleyball player, and this is the craziest thing, people don't understand this. Like there's one sport that they have more concussions than football. Take a guess.
Well, I know.
Soccer. And Tavian, who's down at Creighton, who's got a heavy climb to be a surgeon. Like I made him wear this head map that, a helmet basically. And he's the only dude running in soccer, scoring a goal. And he's a sharpshooter. So he's doing all their PKs.
You
and
made him wear a football helmet.
Yeah. And he's got the helmet on, because I'm like, dude, he's got a serious climb ahead of him. I'm not going to have him in a wheelchair blaming me. Like, you knew this research and you didn't protect me.
Yep.
I mean, here's the crazy thing. When he was a junior, he researched, he's like, Dad, it only decreases your risk by like 36%. And I'm like, I know. And he goes, so you made me wear this for 36%? I'm like, yes, because I'll take 10%, And so that's the concept. So yeah, that's a great question, because we think, okay, you're not going to box because you're going to get a concussion,
or football or something,
or you're not going to play football. But it's even more than that. Like kids who are out flipping, jumping on a trampoline with no net. This isn't about, I'm soft and I'm raising soft boys. This is about, I'm protecting their brain, because that's brain health, which prevents suicide.
You got some support.
Yes. yeah, let's go. That's why Madison's smart, right?
Madison and Dave both were not happy with either of you two.
Yes, correct. He can be mad at me when he's, walking across the aisle getting his degrees.
All right, what's next?
So that's why if there's any questions, we can handle some questions, but that's the issue about the brain health. Okay. Now, so how do we help? Because people always ask, okay, what's this mean to me? This means you have to be asking your kid questions all the time, especially after practice. Like, hey, how'd you go? Did you get hit in the head? How's your head? I know it seems really weird, but it's a redundant question all the time. And yes, you can ask a serious question like, did you get hit and feel dizzy? Did you vomit? Stuff like that, especially if they're in a contact sport. If your kids are going to do boxing, taekwondo, stuff like that, if they spar, just really be strong about, hey, I don't want them to spar with headshots. Anything else and everything else in the body can heal. The heart does not regenerate, and neither does the brain if there's serious brain damage. Okay. So those are the big pieces we want to focus on there. The other piece I want to move toward is the protective factors. So we can talk about brain health, and we can talk about nutrition. We can talk about exercise, but we'll pick the exercise piece up another time, because that's a whole nother talk. But when you exercise, there's 3 major neurotransmitters that get upregulated into the brain, which means your brain runs at a faster processing speed. So you get serotonin, that's what we always call the happy drug. You get dopamine, which that's the motivation drug, and you get norepinephrine, which honestly is my favorite of the 3, because you get elite focus. And I'd rather have focus than motivation. I'd rather have focus than be happy. If I'm focused and mad, I'm still focused.
Yep.
So that's where I'm addicted to workouts because of the norepinephrine. That's pretty awesome. Okay. So let's move to the protective factors. So what can we do when we talk about like be the 1-2? What can we do to help somebody out? Like, what are we doing? And so individually speaking, somebody who verbalizes hope is better off because they can see an out. So now we're talking about the people who have suicidal thoughts. A friend texts you or your parent texts you and says, hey, have you heard about so-and-so? They posted on their wall that, you know, we're better off dead. And so you hit them up and say, hey, can we go get coffee? Hey, can we talk? Right? What are we looking for? Okay. So can a person verbalize hope? That's one. Okay. Can a person make any type of future plan? That's two.
So if they can't do this, that's where we're in trouble.
If they can't do that, you know that area is locked. We got to keep looking. So like if you said, hey, you know, I know this is difficult, but this is only one semester of your degree. I know it's difficult, but you know, maybe you can take a week off. Maybe we can talk. And they're like, no, I'm done. I thought you wanted to be a vet though. Like, no, I've decided, no, I can't make it. So you're not going to argue with them. You just say, okay. And then we move on to find something else. Yep. Okay. So verbalize hope, talk about plans for the future. The next one is like, can you show attachment to life? Like, how's your dog doing? Okay. So any attachment to life. And then if you ask, like, if they talk about a problem, so like, hey, what's going on? They're like, you know, I'm just financially strapped. Like I can't pay my bills, you know, so you can ask, okay, so what is it that you're willing to do? Not what can you do? What are you willing to do? Can and willing is completely different. Like I can go run, but I'm not willing to. Yep. Okay. I can go apply for a job, but I'm not willing to. Right? Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it just seems easy. So listen, most people all the time go, dude, I don't know what to say. Honest to goodness. If you don't remember what to say, just be there. Just be there. And as you just sit, it's okay to just talk and like, hey, can I play some music? You know, if it was us, I would put on a worship music CD, just nice, easy, calm, like lo-fi beats, just some chill music, and then just hang out there and then until something sparks a conversation. So the growing self-efficacy, like to solve a problem. Okay. The next group would be, can they show any responsibility? Like, how are your kids doing? You know, how's your mom? I haven't seen your mom in a while. Okay. And then if you know they're in an embedded social network, so like they're in chess club or they're in a soccer club on campus, you'd say, hey, how's your intramural soccer team doing? And they'll say, I quit. Okay. Is there a way you can be the manager or something? Is there a way you can hang on? Like, I'd like to see you connected socially somewhere. Like, can I help or what can I do? Can I pick you up? You know, I'll pay for an Uber. Like you're always just trying to just figure out what can I do? And believe it or not, like, let's say this whole thing goes to, you leave and you hug and you walk away and there's no answer. They'll still tell you, thank you, because they know the next morning or that night, like they'll text you and say, hey, thanks for showing up. Because really, can you just show up? Can you end your busy life for a moment just to show up for me?
Be present.
Be present. Yeah. Another one is if you can ask them if they have a therapist, if they're meeting with their pastor, if they have a mentor, and if they say yes, you're asking about attachment. Like, is this person still good for you? Like, how long you been meeting with your therapist, or how long you been meeting with your mentor? Like, do you still think your mentor is good for you? Like, are you still connected? And if they still have a connected, yeah, it's not about him. You know, he's pretty straightforward. He's pretty good. Like, honestly, he's gotten me this far. So, okay, they got attachment. You're good. Okay, they've got attachment for it. Another one is a belief system about like, hey, suicide, the actually committing suicide is immoral. And if they talk about like being in, you know, judgment or, you know, being in purgatory or something like that religiously, that will help them hold on and search for more hope. Because it's an antagonist factor to actually making an attempt.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if they have any hope for a treatment, so like if they're talking about like, yeah, therapy's not working, but I did see this one group of people who they get together and they meditate. And I've read some good things about meditate. So then we just say, hey, can I walk? Can I go with you? Like, you know, I'm not saying I know what to do about meditation. I'm not saying I even get it, but like, I'm willing to pick you up and go if that will help you. Okay. And then the last one is if they take any action steps. So it's like, if you're walking them through this process, if they take any action step, like, you know what, fine, I'll meet you for coffee, or yes, you can join me and my mentor if you want to. So if they take any action step that you're actually working toward that process. So we're really looking for a hope that they cling on to some area, some angle of their life. And believe it or not, what we're looking for is the best possible thing would be something that takes very low effort, that has a very high relaxing reward, because they've tried to find joy in work, in things, in achievement, in goals, and they're feeling like a failure. So those are all slipping. So we have to do would be like, so, okay. So for, Tyler, you and I are bow hunters. So it'd be like, hey, you want to walk into the woods and just hang out and watch some animals? Do you want to go check some trail cameras? Like, would you like to go for a hike in the woods? Like something that's real low effort, but really high reward. Okay. And typically those are a list of hobbies. Hobbies are pretty easy to do, but high, like bang for your buck. Okay. So that's what we want to be looking for.
Replenishes them, fuels them up, excites them.
Yes, correct. 100%. Yeah. And there's this whole stuff on green therapy. Like I got my hat. So this is, 12-2ing our outdoor. This is our outdoor company, our nonprofit, where we take kids into the woods and teach them how to shoot archery, because archery is standing meditation. So what I've done to people, even some clients, is I take them out and I shoot archery with them. Just meet them in one of the barns that we go shoot at, and just have them bring a friend, and we just go shoot archery. And a lot of them will pick up archery on their own, and it's a go-to, absolute go-to. Like I would bank money in a study that archery can beat almost anything other than a therapist that's really good, that they're highly connected to. But I would even bank on, man, you catch me on a bad day, like archery will beat me.
Yep. I just went and shot on Monday.
Yeah.
Out of nature preserve, went out there by myself, and
yes,
and there's nothing like it. Just quiet.
Yes.
Feel yourself breathing, kind of just grounds you.
Absolutely. And then if you have somebody to talk to you, you don't get stuck in your internal narrative.
Yeah, well, and for dudes, anytime we just do stuff, we're not good at just sitting and talking. So especially for dudes, you can go out and do some activity. Usually then in the midst of middle of the activity, then you can throw out like, hey bro, how you doing?
Yes.
You good? You feeling all right? Mental all there, and gives you an opportunity to be able to communicate with them.
Yeah. And that's really good too, because like if you know somebody who like shoots pool or throws darts or is a bowler, instantly jump into their activity, because you don't have to teach them anything. You can just parallel with them.
Yep.
Right. And remember, like the biggest key is we're talking about brain health, and the biggest do is just show up with them.
Well, it's kind of like kids. It's like get on their level. Same thing with someone that's struggling. Do what they want to do. Don't make them come do what you want to do. Yes,
absolutely.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope. Just got a lot of agreements. We got a well put. Esther was repeating when you said relationships. One of the number one things to try to do, be there for him, be present.
Yes.
Esther threw a 100.
Okay.
She's vibing with what you're saying.
Okay. Got it.
I missed Esther's baking.
Yes.
That's what I miss.
Correct.
I'm throwing 100 in for that. Couple thoughts I have, and then we'll end with, you got anything else? And then we'll end with the be the one.
Well, we've got the 3 steps that there's, by the way, there's a great book coming out. It was released today, actually. So we've already ordered it, but it's called basically The Suicide Solution. So The Suicide Solution, where so this is from the Amen Clinics, by the way, and they list some of their research in there. So some of the stats I pulled from their stuff, because they do great work, and they don't just prescribe a medicine and say, okay, you're good. Which, it's no different than somebody who just goes to therapy and we say you're good. It's multimodal, because brain health is multi-systemic. So there's got to be multiple areas. And if you're a person who thinks, it's called The Suicide Solution
by Dr. Daniel and Rick.
Daniel Emina
and Rick Lawrence.
Yes, correct.
I was going to throw the comments.
Yeah, put that in there. It's a picture of it's a picture of a brain. So these are some of my go-to people. So been kind of collaborating with them, just email and phone conversations since probably like 2006. So this is really cool stuff when they have the brain science, and they got the pictures, they got the SPECT scans, the fMRIs to look at the brain. You're not just dealing with an emotional issue. Like a lot of times people say, well, just suck it up, dude. Just, back in the day I was struggling and I just doubled down on my work and I just, pulled myself up. Like, we're not talking about a blue mood. We're not talking about a bad day. We're talking about literally there's a malfunction in your brain. Like, that's like somebody saying, bro, How come you go to work and like, I started my car and then all of a sudden just boom, all this black smoke. I open it up and there's oil everywhere. That's like somebody literally saying to you, just go start it again, dude. What's your problem? You're like,
Right.
dude, you're not here. Oil spilled everywhere. Like
Turn off and turn it back on.
There's a malfunction, right? So when we talk about this brain health, there's literally a malfunction. There's an area of the brain that's underworking or that's overworking. It's working too hard. It's because it knows you're stressed, or it's underworking because it's burned out. We're not recovering very well. You can't just like say, hey, you know what? Just take a cold shower and you're going to be great for the next month. Like, there's small little things we can do, but all of that moves the needle a little bit. We have to understand that pushing harder, trying harder isn't it. It's actually soaking up community. It's actually, they have to like lean on me to get my energy so they can make it through the day. And I want you guys to understand, like, this is a serious brain health issue. It's a brain malfunction. Sometimes it's actually a brain break, like an area literally broke. And so sometimes they'll have to have some heavy medicine, sometimes some physical therapy. And a lot of times, this is a whole nother talk, but it's linked to nutritional inflammation. So like people who are eating, let's say, types of noodles and they're actually allergic to them, but they don't really know they're allergic to them. And they hop off it, they get all this reaction. So they stay back on what they're allergic to. It's when they get away from it, the symptoms explode. It's kind of weird to talk about, but those are called IgIs and IgEs. They're two different types of food allergens. And so there's so many pieces that go into the brain trauma that can then cause and linked, like 40% of of suicide is, a traumatic brain injury. Like nobody would think that. Most people would say, especially men, I'm gonna throw men under the bus here because it's especially dudes that, oh, just suck it up, just be a man, don't be a sheep, that kind of crap. Although you can say that, like, let's say in a weight room when I know you benched 200 yesterday and now you can't even like lift 5 pounds, like, dude, stop. That's different, right? If there's something physical evidence I can see, that's different than if I can't see it and you're just judging me because you think I'm just faking you. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Esther threw up a good little one-liner. You go through it, not get over it. If you have someone to do it with, or be there for you, is a bonus.
Absolutely correct. Like the best thing I can teach about suicide prevention when somebody's in the thick of it and they're stuck and they're just had this internal narrative where like they're not just like, this is the story that's wrecking me, but now I know and I feel like I am wrecked. The best thing to do is think about a person who's cramping, but they're in a marathon and they're not going to quit. So you can't run at your pace. Your 9-minute mile pace is out the window. You're just trying to kind of walk, jog. You jog a little bit, then you're walking again. You walk a little bit, then you jog a little bit. You pull over at the stand. You're taking some first aid. You're sucking down some Gatorade. You're kind of walking, jogging. You pick up the pace a little bit. Realize I'm not going to make it. So now I'm going to walk in again, speed walking. The goal is to finish, because when you finish, they realize that in that process, I'm more of a winner than I think I am. There's more inside of me than I thought. So now they can renew their mind. Now we can push, and now we can celebrate. Now we celebrate the wins, have the victory candle, all those things that we talk about.
Okay.
So awesome.
You hit your 3 points.
Yeah. So some of the 3 points I talk about is, number one, understand that, there's multiple contributors to brain health and how we feel. And so again, you can't just expect one person to try what you tried. Like if I said, man, I was down for a few days and, I took lemon water every day and I felt like freaking just a horse. That was amazing. They're going to say, okay, cool. Right. So there's multiple avenues for that. So this kind of ties with me. What we always try is renew your perspective. How can we get them to renew how they think about the problem? So we're going to have to just sit and listen, just be there. So for this one, I would say, be the one to listen. Because after a few days, a few situations, a few settings of listening, you can just ask a question like, hey, you said you used to ride your bike. Like, is that even possible now? Like, what's that look like? Just ask the question. Yep. Okay. So that's number one. Remember, there's multiple avenues.
The other side of that too is like, if you're the one struggling with suicidal thoughts, understand that same thing goes for you. So, okay, someone told you that, and you tried it and it didn't work. That might not be the root cause for you. So let's try to do something else. Let's figure something else out. If it's, if it's not the allergies, then maybe it's the head trauma. If it's not the head trauma, then like understand that you're not broken just because one of the solutions that worked for someone else didn't work for you. Keep finding the solution that will eventually work for you.
Perfect. Like for example, I haven't read this book, right? But let's just pretend they talk about exercise because they're big on that. And you like, oh, dude, I got 2 bad knees. Nobody understands. I can't exercise. Start to do the research. So if you do a cold bath, an ice bath for 10 minutes, or you do a 4-minute cold shower, you re-spark your ATP, your energy production, and you kill off old mitochondria, which are energies, and you start actually renewing your body and mind throughout that process. Another cool thing is a stuff called heat sensitive proteins. If you sit in a sauna, I think for 12 minutes to 20 minutes, something like that, with the heat shock proteins that are released in your body, your energy spikes and your brain literally thinks you just worked out for 20 minutes. Cheat. That's a hack right there. That's why I keep bugging mom.
I just got a membership at the YMCA.
Yeah. Get on, mom. Bring
What's better, a sauna or a steam room?
Either one.
They're the same thing. One's dry heat, one's wet heat, right?
Yeah. Well, the answer would be whichever one gets more heat, whichever one reaches hotter temps. The hotter, the better.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yeah. So, all right. Number 2, know who you are.
Wait. So I can just go to the YMCA, sit in the sauna for 12 minutes.
Huh? Glitching.
Number 2. Sauna.
Okay. Know who you are. And this is super important as your identity is slipping and you're getting into this negative narrative. It's so easy to look at the failure and go, yep, I suck. And look back at the failure. Yep, I suck. And just keep doing that. So what you have to do is know who you are, focus on your strengths. And this is where we get our concept from, like, what, like, what's awesome about that, right? So like, yes, so I'm struggling. I can't work out. I got sucky knees right now. So first thing I would say, if you call me, I'd be like, bro, what's awesome about that? You'd be like, this is stupid. I can't work out. My knees suck. What's awesome about that? I would keep hammering the same stupid question, even if you call me names, same. And then you'd be like, what? You're going to probably say something like, I can do my garden now. I didn't say it. You did. Let's go. All right. So I'm like a mental ninja. So I'll get you to say what I want you to say without telling you that what I want you to say. Right. So know who you are. So I call that standing on your identity. Stand on your identity. Stand on your identity. God created you with a purpose. You have to know who you are and you have to stand on that process instead of run from it. Okay. So that one is know who you are, find your strengths and your passions. Right. The last one is maintain your hardware and software with routines. And this comes back to our DMO, our daily mode of operation, our bedtime routine, because the more you routinize, the less you have to think about stuff. This is okay. I shouldn't judge this, but I'm going to. I think this is dumb, but this is just my opinion. I don't know the research, honestly, but like people like Mark Zuckerberg, and there's a handful of them, like they wear the same kinds of shirts. So like white t-shirts or blue t-shirts or the same types of jeans, like Levi's 501 or who knows, whatever kind of jean, but they do the same things, new shirt, new pant every day, same exact socks, same exact shoes, because they don't want anything to think about. They don't want to waste any mental energy during the day. Now I get the concept, but to me, I don't know, it's too boring. So, but the concept is routine. So they base that routine. It's just one more piece of their morning routine. Same pants, same shirt. And the cool thing about it is it does lessen the amount of mental energy I spend in the morning. So now I have a full mindset for work. Okay. So this last one is maintain your routines. So I would ask somebody, okay, so before you felt like you fell into this mental hole, what was your routine? And tell me when you were killing it the most. We're going to go back to the last time we were successful. And then I'll say, okay, what part of your routine are you willing to do? There's no way somebody who's down and out is going to pick up a 9-step morning routine, but they might say, these 2 things I'm willing to do.
Add 2.
Perfect. Let's just stick to those 2. And we're going to knock on those 2 every single day. And then you're going to tell me when we're going to add a 3rd. You're going to tell me when you're ready for a 4th. Okay. Cool. And so understand there's multiple approaches to how you got here. There's going to be multiple answers to how we step back out. Okay. Number 2, your identity. Know who you are and know your strengths and stand on your identity. Number 3, we have to focus and fall back on standard routines for morning, for lunches, for dinners, for bedtimes. We have to lock into some routine. All right.
Like it.
Awesome.
Couple thoughts I have.
Okay.
I'm going to throw them into the comments here so then I can post them.
Okay.
So
I turned my phone off since I was glitching, so I don't see any questions.
Yeah, I think that helped. I don't know.
Yeah. Create a
As you said,
schedule.
create a schedule. Second,
Yes.
what you said.
Amen.
So here's John 16:33 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. And that's my key verse that I stand on when people are struggling. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, it's normal. Like,
Yes.
like the scripture is very clear. This world is not going to be easy. The path that you're on is not going to be without bumps or without waves. And
Yes.
so I try to get students, especially, to understand that what they're experiencing and feeling is not isolated.
Right.
Like I always say, like, Raul, you are not the only one that has ever felt like this before.
Yes.
Fill
You're
in the
not,
blank.
you're not alone.
You're not alone. The
Yes.
scripture literally says you will have trouble,
Right.
but take heart. Jesus died not only for the sins of this world, but also for every single thing that we face in this life. And so get them to understand this is normal. Like, it might not feel normal. You might feel like you're the only student in your school, the only adult, the only person at your workplace, but you're not. And then as we dive into scripture, as we stand on the promises, God gives that peace. Now, I'm not arrogant or dumb enough or hyper spiritual enough to think that reading your Bible and praying is the only way to remove suicidal thoughts and all that stuff. And that's why we have this podcast, is that we believe in both. We believe that God has given psychologists and doctors and medicine and psychiatrists just as well as praying and fasting. They are the same, one and the other. One's not more spiritual than the other. We think they both are the option. You pray and you fast and you stand on biblical principles and scripture. And at the same time, you go to therapy and you get help and you maybe take meds if you need to, and you fix the problem through both of those avenues. I want to be real clear that we are for both of those.
Right.
Okay. And then lastly, you see that hashtag at the bottom of the screen. Let me take this off real quick. Be the one to. So that's the National Suicide Prevention hashtag.
Yes.
And if you look up Be the One To, type that in Google, hashtag Be the One To, it'll bring you to the website. You can look it on Twitter, any social media platforms, hashtag Be the One To. There's 5 things that they're asking people that to help prevent suicide in their family members and friends. There's 5 things that they're asking you to do. So be the one to ask questions. Are you thinking about suicide? Are you struggling? How are you doing? Is there a reason you feel this way? What are the causes of this way? Just be the one to ask.
Yes.
Next one, be the one to be there. Physically be present. Don't just say, I'll call or text, say I'm coming over. Don't just say, okay, let's do that next week, or let's grab lunch or coffee. Go physically and do what you need to do in the moment, which is literally possibly could save a life.
Yeah, and be clear. Don't be the person that says, Tyler, I'm here for you. You let me know if you need me. They're not going to ask.
Right.
You're in the
Head
hole.
over. Go.
Right. Just go.
Yep. Next one, be the one to keep them safe. And in this portion, they say, if they're at the point of contemplating it and coming up with a plan, take them to the hospital, check them in, call 911 if necessary, call the authorities, make sure guns, firearms, knives, they're not left alone. This is like kind of the step that the person you're talking to is maybe actually planning, looking to go through with the action. Be the one to keep them safe. Do anything you can in your power to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yes. And sometimes if you have somebody who's suicidal to the point where they have a plan, you're being with them, you're taking away the knives and the scissors out of love, and then you keep an eyesight supervision for 24 hours. Like there's somebody has to be with them 24 hours. Yep. I know it gets gross, but like if you're with a female, you have to have a female come over so like they can just kind of crack the door open when they go into the bathroom. Like they don't have to sit there and literally watch them go pee, but just, do stuff that a dude can't do. And same thing with working with a guy. So really that really heightened window is they're suicidal, pondering the plan. There's a 24-hour window where it's super dangerous.
Yep. So be the one to keep them safe.
Yep.
Last two, number 4 is be the one to help them connect. So say, hey, like you said earlier, do you have a psychologist? Do you have someone to contact? Do you talking to a counselor? Your parents, have you let anyone know that you're going through this? That's my first question to students that come to me and say, hey, I'm having suicidal thoughts, or I'm cutting, or self-harming. It's who else have you told? I want to make sure that they're telling multiple people, and I'm not the only person that they're telling. So get them connected to a group, a church, a mental health professional, get them on a suicide hotline. I put all of those at the beginning of the comments up top for local Sioux City. If you're in this area, I put the hotline on there. I put the hotline for the state, Iowa statewide, and then we put the hotline on there for the national suicide prevention. Send them, it says even to call the number and hand them the phone. Don't just say, hey, you call this, or like literally call the number, have the person pick up and hand the phone over. And then the last one is what I think we struggle with, especially today, is be the one to follow up. So I think we do a really good job, especially in the church world, to say, oh, I'm praying for you, even pray for them in the lobby on Sunday. And then maybe don't talk to them again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, run back into them on Sunday and say, oh, hey, how did that surgery go? Or how did your, the job interview, whatever. Follow up multiple times. It doesn't have to get consuming, but at least once a day, a couple times a day. Let them know you're still thinking about them, still understand what they're going through. Follow up as often as you can.
Yes, correct. And in that process somewhere, it'll come up where like, hey, who have you told? Who can we share? Who can we let? No, they'll lock in because the internal narrative is no one's going to care. They're going to shame me. Here's the concept. Like, hey, this is what's happening to you. This isn't who you are. This is what's happening to you right now. And people need to know where you're at, and people need to know that you're safe and that this is happening to you, but this isn't who you are. This isn't your identity. This is like if I fell down and cracked my head, people need to know. Okay. And that's how I explain it to them all the time. Like, this is an injury and people need to know you're injured, and then they'll circle around so we can get support and help for you. And then as they learn to shed that identity, like, this isn't who I am, this is happening to me. Now we can get them to stand on that identity of who are you and what are your strengths. Let's build you back to the person you are, right? Back to where you can survive and succeed. So awesome.
Be the one to ask, be the one to be there, be the one to keep them safe, be the one to help them connect, and be the one to follow up.
Yes. Be the one to
family and friends struggling with possibly suicidal thoughts.
Yes. That's awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's all I got. Anything you got?
No, that's it.
Okay.
So
if you got anyone that is struggling with suicidal thoughts, someone that maybe is battling anxiety, depression, to the point where this is maybe, something that they've dealt with, share this podcast with them. Send them this video. It'll also in the next couple of days be up on Spotify and iTunes. We pray that this hopefully will change some people's lives, give you the tools if you're not one struggling with suicidal thoughts, give you the tools to help out some people. And then like always, man, please reach out. Like me and Dad both are in the comments, and we both watch the private messages and the messengers on both Instagram and Facebook. So at any point you don't feel comfortable to put it in the comments for people to see, or you're scared that you don't want me to put it up and show the comment, message us, and that will stay private. We'll respond to that accordingly. And we want to be the one to reach out to anyone that's on this podcast and maybe doesn't have someone that is reaching out, or someone doesn't have someone close. We will be that person for you guys. So
yes,
let us know.
Correct.
Anything else you got?
That's all.
Sweet.
Back to our main steps of renew, move, find. That's how we process everything. Renew, move, find. And
don't ever forget it. There's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't.
Let's go, baby.
Love you.
All right.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me, for all of the people that said I would fall off, bro, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.